At this point, you're going to jump in with some tips on how to effectively work with dyslexia for a teacher, for a student, and also for a parent.
Hi everyone. Yes, I thought the final week it was important maybe to give some tips. This is what I do on my blog on a daily basis. I get asked questions and I often give the top 10 tips. So I thought today I'll give a few tips for teachers, students, and parents. Um, Now, teachers, I know it's not easy. You've got about 30, in some cases you've got 30 students to teach, and therefore you don't always want to be concentrating on the one child who has the problem, as you've got maybe a number of students who do have problems, dyslexia and other learning disabilities. Now, I'm going to go through these quickly, but I'll try to give an in-depth understanding or as much information I can.
Right.
Now, one thing I remember as a child being dyslexic was I was always getting told, and I get told this even in my job, that your grammar's not correct, your spelling's awful. And yes, I do use the spell check on the computer, I do use the grammar check, and it still doesn't work. Now, what I want for you, the teacher, to understand is gently move away from the spelling and the grammar. But dyslexic knows this, and if you keep telling them about the spelling and the grammar, they're going to get negativity from you. What you should be doing is praising the information on the page. So what I'm trying to say is content is important. When we read a book, or we don't actually judge someone because of their spelling, we actually judge them for the information they put on the book, the content. Now, the next issue I want to go with is, and I know you can't always do this in class, but it's important for teachers to help dyslexics with the spelling. Now, I'm not saying if you're a history teacher, you need to concentrate on the spelling, but maybe a glossary of the key words they're going to be learning, and give all the students the list with an explanation. This would help the dyslexic a lot. Teachers, I know that you very much like to use the whiteboards and the blackboards to teach. I can understand why. It's an idea of teaching all the students in one go. But with dyslexic students, actually also normal students, they can get eye fatigue by them reading off the board. Now, what I would like to say is, teachers, if you're using a blackboard, don't just use white chalk. Okay, if you're using a whiteboard, don't just use black. It is the same issue that dyslexics have problems with reading off paper. Now, it's best to use different colour, for example, red, green and blue, to write with. Yes, you can still write with white and black, but for dyslexic and other students will find it a lot easier to read off with red, green and blue. This is because of eye fatigue, which I've explained quite a lot in the previous webinars. Next issue for teachers is a problem which dyslexics do have, and it becomes a mind block when it comes to learning, is stress. If a dyslexic has difficulty understanding something, rather than pushing ahead with what you're trying to get them to learn, if it's a one-to-one or a group activity, just say, okay, now we're going to have 1 minute relaxation where you can talk to your friend next. And you might think this is a bit daft, but I find by having a few minutes rest, my mind relaxes and dyslexics' mind relax, and therefore they can come back to the topic with a refreshed mind and therefore go forward with learning. Now, the next one, and I'm hoping I'm not going through these too fast, but I've got quite a few students and parents topics I want to discuss as well. Now, teachers, dyslexics have problem with study skills. They lack the skills. And for example, when you give homework, classwork, what I think is important is if you show an example of what you want done. So for example, if you say, today I want you to write some notes from this case study for your homework, Don't just say, I want some notes. Show them type of notes that you're looking for. Again, you could do this on a piece of paper or blackboard by saying, okay, I want each of you to write 10 bullet points. This is the type of style of bullet point information I want on the bullet point. This is an example for the dyslexic to go away and understand what they need to do and the depth that you're looking for. Because the problem that dyslexics have difficulty with, they don't understand the depth that the teacher is looking for and therefore lose grades from that. Now, again, I've just mentioned the next one, explain how you want information presented. Again, this very much is linked to study skills. I do think study skills is something dyslexics do have difficulty with, and I do think it is important for teachers to show while trying to help the student learn the different styles. Now, something I found very useful being dyslexic is using spider diagrams. Now, the reason why I like spider diagrams, I think teachers, this is a very good way of helping all your students learn, is if you write subtopics on the board that you're studying as a spider diagram. This allows especially the dyslexic to target a specific area and put information from in their mind in that area, and therefore keep that information away from the full topic or another area that they will be studying on. I find that when I'm thinking, I think of a subtopic, and this is why I think spider diagrams are very, very useful. This is a great tip for parents and a very, very good tip for students. Now, okay, I mentioned bullet points earlier. I find that personally, I find bullet points are a lot easier to remember, a lot easier to read, and rather than giving a group of paragraphs of information to a student, try to give bullet points. Now, I said earlier on, content is important. Now, being dyslexic, you're in a negative environment, especially when you're in a classroom, and there's a lot of pressure on you from your mum and dad wanting you to do well. You want to be able to keep up with your classmates and not feel stupid, not feel thick, and you don't want failure. Now, the difficulty that dyslexics have is they feel the negativity of the teacher. Now, teachers, tell a dyslexic when they've done a good job. Even if you think it hasn't been the best of a job, that praise can be worth more than anything. Because if they turn up to that next class believing that you've told them they've done a good job, they'll have more self-acceptance and want to be learning in your class. If you tell them they've done a bad job, they will come to the next class fearing, I'm going to fail this, and therefore in stress. So it's reducing stress, and stress is very important to reduce within a learning environment for dyslexics. I hope, teachers, that you found that information correct. I'm going to go on to students now.